Los Angeles, as compared to today, was more like a country town then. And I had all kinds of experiences that took me into different parts of Los Angeles. In fact, my mother and her friend were in charge of the employee cafeteria at the main library. And when I was about 15 or 16, she and her girlfriend sent her daughter and me to run the cafeteria. So I was downtown in Los Angeles proper on Saturdays, running the cafeteria and earning enough money to buy my sweaters. My mother taught me to sew when I was very young, and I sewed all my clothes through high school.
Oh, my.
And the only thing I couldn't, and so it allowed me to use money to buy sweaters and shoes. Los Angeles was, my knowledge of Los Angeles in the 20s and 30s obviously is my neighborhood.
Yes.
And in my neighborhood was my school, 36th Street School. In my neighborhood, where I knew everybody, including the janitor, who we all loved very much. And we had our church, Bethel AME Church. My life centered around Bethel AME Church. My mother was very, very protective, and we were not allowed to go very far, unchaperoned. But we could go to church anytime, day or night, and hopefully that's where we were going on her part. And so we would go to church, Bethel. I sang in the choir. I later on began to teach Sunday school until I got to college. And so the church was the center of our life for all the social things as well as for religious services and that kind of thing. So my general impression of California is the other thing that we also experienced was a subtle form of racism, which initially, in thinking it over, I think we didn't really understand it. For instance, the neighborhood theater had Saturday matinees for children. And when we'd walk in the neighborhood theater, there was somebody there to send us up to the balcony, the black children, always. And, well, since it was our friends up there, we sort of didn't question the practice. We didn't say to our parents, you know, they're segregating us or they're sending us upstairs, until much later.
No signs, but something
No
intangible.
signs, intangible, and something that was not legislated, so you couldn't exactly fight it if you didn't recognize it when you saw it. My father, for instance, my father and his light-skinned friend Buell went to a restaurant in Los Angeles, and the waitress didn't see them come together, so she gave them different menus with different prices on them. And of course, and so my father, and they compared prices, and they said, something's going on here. And my father sued the restaurant, and he won the suit. And I found a clipping about the lawsuit in about 1935. Because I was determined to be more independent, and I was very focused on work always. I had a job at high school, during the high school years. Roosevelt had brought in all the social programs, and
President Roosevelt. Yes.
President Roosevelt.
Yes.
And the NYA was one of the National Youth Administration, and I got a job with NYA making baby clothes for poor families. And so I got the job because I went in and pleaded with the school, and we were not a destitute family, but we were a very poor family. My father was a World War I veteran, and he was sick, and I needed to help the family, and I carried on. So I got the job, and then one Thanksgiving, the ladies' auxiliary, all white, showed up at my house. And I looked out the window and saw them coming in. The family said, "What is this? What have you done now, Rachel?" And they were getting out with obviously a turkey. You know, they had a roasting pan
for the
destitute items. And so I rushed out, and I knew I couldn't let them into the living room because they would see I was a fraud. My father had just gotten the first combination radio phonograph console, and it was sitting right there in the living room. So I dashed out the door and down to meet them in front of the house, And I thank them so much for thinking of our poor family, and I managed to carry everything they had brought into the house. I wouldn't get them get near us. But there was that kind of, there was that, it wasn't patronizing. It was really, I think, kind of a nice concern, and it gave them something to do. And so that was sort of what my encounters with white people in those days were not really vicious or bad, as I would put it. I didn't hit that until I hit the South, when Jack and I went South first.
Yes. That hard.
The attack on us, the attitudes that were going to stifle us and that hold us back and hold us down. I didn't really encounter those.